Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing well. I was thinking what to record this time, and one of the things that is interesting to me is the difference between false success and real success. You may say, what are you talking about? False success? Isn't success a success? Well, if you ever met a person who's wildly successful and miserable, then you would know what I mean. That's not actually a success. And in fact, this type of success is opposite of a real success. It's not different, it's opposite. Um, this is very interesting concept because it really distinguishes the ego from the power. Often those two things are conflated as one thing, but they're actually the opposite. You can see a lot of people, obviously, if you are interested and if you are actually talking to a person who's successful and honest, and you would be surprised the number of people, the percentage of people who are successful and miserable. That's not a secret. Of course, there's one image that they have to play, that they're very happy. But then there's another side of it, which is true and real, and some people right now coming out and honestly say, success did not really bring me what I thought it's gonna bring me. And so I would like to propose that there's a difference between a real success and a false success. And everything starts with the beginning, with the birth of the desire. Usually starting with some sort of trigger, some event or something, usually a negative event that causes that desire, catalyst for that desire. And in that moment is very important. A lot of times we didn't really have a chance to do anything but choose this wrong direction, and I will explain what I mean by that. Because in that moment when the seed is planted, you can grow two types of trees: a tree of soul, a tree of ego, as I call them, or a tree of knowledge, a tree of life. But these are just words to describe a certain direction that a person may take in response of birth of that desire. A lot of times, for example, if somebody gets bullied in school, um, that causes them to be, a martial arts champion, right? But whether you're gonna become a happy, successful martial artist, or you're gonna become just another version of the bully in martial arts, depends on what you have done in that moment when the desire was being born. Because when there's a negative emotion that happens because of the event, there's choice right there in that moment. Once you make that choice, it's very difficult to change. The tree must grow. And if you made a choice for this false type of success, You're going to have to witness yourself being successful but miserable. You're going to have to witness that and see that you took a wrong path there. But if the negative emotion happens inside of you, there's two directions that you can take. One, you can take the brain type of direction, which is the brain interpretation of the negative emotion, and then you basically employ the brain to fix that negative emotion by pacifying it with the success. And so you become dependent and addicted to the success to pacify, get that short-term relief, but it never goes away. It never really satisfies you. And this is why the misery does not go away. But if you're in that moment, instead of just going directly, employing the brain and interpreting that negative emotion right away, if you don't go on this direction or with this direction, because that is what in the Bible is the forbidden truth of knowledge. In that moment there is a free will to do that. But if you don't, if you say, okay, I'm not going to use my brain to interpret my negative emotions, because all the thoughts that are going to stem from that are going to be kind of negative, and they're going to be like kind of conflict based. It would be like a revenge based. If someone mistreated me, then I'm going to show them, or whatever. That's like a conflict based type of drive. You're going to be driven through that negative pain inside you that keeps on making you move, and you move away from the pain to the solution to pacify. But if you don't go in this direction and you cut off this thing. It's so important because it's like a first domino. If you set the first domino off, everything else falls into place. That's the first domino. When you're having a negative emotion because of some sort of event, don't use your brain to interpret what's going on or what you need to do or whatever. Just do not use your brain. And if you're not using your brain and you cut off that type of emotion, you're going to be settling into that negative emotion that you call, which the brain was trying to push away, because that's what brain does. It segregates. So that's why we don't use the brain in this case. So what we call the negative emotion, we are actually sitting with it. The negative emotion, what the brain says, that's a negative emotion because it feels bad. Refuse this. But what the heart does, and that's the correct way, is saying that embrace it, because the separation of me and that emotion, there's somebody who is not liking the emotion. That separation is the problem. But if you merge those two together, it's like the observer becomes the observed, where you are realizing that you are that negative emotion. And you think, well, if I'm going to be that negative emotion, I'm going to feel bad. But that's not what happens. When you become that negative emotion, whatever you are, you're always blissful or peaceful. That's who you are. If the emotion becomes part of you, it becomes no longer uncomfortable. It becomes like part of you, which is, you are it. So you're not afraid of it. It's just a vibration that just feels good, actually. You see, this is actually the first step towards this correct way of being successful in life. In my personal life as well, I was very weary about this so-called successful misery, And so I knew that there has to be another way, because I like the success and I know that there's a certain type of healthy need for success, um, and that's not ego. That's not ego, because you have your body and it has its own natural needs, and those needs to be fulfilled. But how are you going to fulfill them? That is the key. Which direction are you going to go? Are you going to leave that pain inside you and look for the solutions always to satisfy and pacify that pain? Or are you going to make that pain and you one, and then from that joy, um, fulfill um, desires directly? And I'm going to continue this one in the next one. I'll see you in the next one.